Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Amashinda. I am your host, Stanley Swande, and today, for the first time on the show, we're going to be having a guest join us to talk about a particular issue. This issue is conservation in Africa and the various aspects of conservation in Africa that are governed by historically Eurocentric Western aristocratic principles that were established in various parts of Europe within the last 1,000 years. So the guest that's going to be joining me today is Dr. Mordecai Ogada. Dr. Mordecai Ogada is a Kenyan carnivore ecologist and conservation policy scholar with over 25 years of experience in Kenya and other parts of Africa, mainly on human-wildlife conflict issues. His current work focuses on the challenges of racism and other prejudices in the global conservation arena. He also researches and writes extensively on the ethical challenges of the global climate movement, including protection of the ownership rights of Indigenous people in the global south over their natural heritage. He is a co-author of The Big Conservation Lie, which came out in 2016, with John Mbaria, and the author of Green and Evil, which came out in 2025. Dr. Ogada lives in Nanyuki, Kenya, and is a keen student of African socio-political history. I would also like to apologize if I seem a bit distracted during the podcast. So I'm filming this after we just finished filming the episode with Dr. Ogada. And in the process of filming this episode, we encountered a few technical difficulties. And so if I seem a bit distracted, it may be because of the fact that there were a few things that we were sorting out behind the scenes during the process of filming this podcast episode. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoy this very much. Thank you once again for supporting this project. And enjoy, guys. Okay, Dr. Ogada, thank you so much for joining me and for doing this. I really appreciate it. How are you
Yeah, my
doing
pleasure.
today?
I'm doing okay and keeping up with the craziness going around going on in the world
Mm.
right now.
That
Yeah.
video that you put out about Ishowspeed being in Kenya and all of it being a giant orchestrated stunt by Kenya Wildlife Service. That was
Yeah,
a
the Kenya Wildlife Service and other government agencies and all that, yeah, they all choreographed the whole thing. So it
mm.
certainly wasn't organic in Kenya. It may have been in other parts of Africa, but not Kenya.
Okay. And what do you make of that? Was that a missed opportunity for someone with a large following to be given a specific a view of Kenya and display of Kenya, or was it kind of hopeless from the get-go?
It was pretty, I'd say it was hopeless from the get-go because um, Kenya is obsessed with optics.
Mm,
We as a nation are so obsessed with how other people see us
yeah.
that we won't let them just see us as we are.
Mm,
We are trying to curate our certain image, and even when things go wrong in Kenya, sometimes maybe the civil unrest, you'll hear the stresses about, oh, it foreign investors won't want to come, tourists won't want to come,
yeah.
this will spoil our image abroad and this kind of thing. So it's unfortunate because Kenya itself is a beautiful, diverse, and very vibrant country and society, but we keep wanting to curate everything about how people see us. So some people are supporting the thing as if, oh, he showed a good image of Kenya and all that.
Mm-hmm.
He showed so many millions of people. He showed so many millions of people what Kenya looks like, and this kind of thing. And I was thinking, like, I don't care. I know how Kenya is or what Kenya is. Like myself, um, we need to be good for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be good for our own sake, and then those who perceive us can perceive us in whatever way they want. Like if they think we are all poor and sleeping hungry, that's fine because I know we have food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's a very, very interesting take because it's been interesting seeing how different countries have responded as he has
Yeah.
been touring from Cape Town all the way through Africa. And yours is the first take that I've seen that has highlighted how there was a massive controlled effort by
Yeah.
governmental institutions to orchestrate it. And yours is also the first take that I've heard that kind of criticizes that and views that as a bad thing. But then this is a theme that carries through with a lot of the content that you make. I recall
Mm.
watching a video that you made about imperialists that don't have empire and how
Yeah.
childish that is.
Yeah.
You remarked about Kenyan people dressing up to watch the royal wedding on TV and so on and so forth. And I guess that kind of carries across when you see a person with a very massive following come through, and all of these governmental institutions try to orchestrate it, and everybody's just clapping their hands.
Yeah, everybody's clapping their hand. And if there's a role of government is that, okay, this guy's got a massive following. And I confess, before he came, I did not know him.
Mm,
But he's got a massive following. And the only role of government should be sort of, because there's all these crowds and stuff, like have some police there to keep him secure so people, because I've since then I've looked and he's gone to places and people are like pulling his hair and stuff like that. So have
yeah.
some security so that people don't harass him or harm him physically in any way. So
Mm,
that if he goes to a certain place, you control crowds so you don't have a huge crash or stampede in any places and that kind of thing. But let him do his thing if you go where he wants to go. And because one of the things, if you look at they one of the places they took him was one of these affordable housing projects that our government is doing, and that's not a successful project. No one's moved into those houses. No one lives there.
oh.
So they choreographed it to look like he's visiting some thriving urban community, and that's all staged. Um, and going around again, and it's so incoherent. There's shouting and screaming and just a lot of noise.
Mm.
So I see the place that has in society, but we should not get in and try and choreograph that and see it as a way forward in how we present ourselves.
Mm. Okay, that's I mean, I completely agree. I completely agree.
Mm.
I guess this also ties into something that I wanted to ask you because so in the content that you make, it's obviously very centered around conservation. It's centered around
Mm.
the sort of imperial history of conservation and how conservation today in Kenya and broadly in Africa is a continual preservation of that aristocratic
Yeah,
colonial legacy. Um,
yeah,
and in the last, it also beyond that, there's an aspect to your content that intersects with politics and with race and so on and so forth. And in the last 2 years, there's been these uprisings by the youth in Kenya, and it's made a lot of waves. There's many people
mm.
that have covered it, and I wanted to sort of get your take on that. Do you think, or do you see when you see all of these protests that are coming up, do you see that there is hope for a change of political disposition in
Mm.
Kenya, or do you see it as more hype and more overblown coverage by foreign media?
Yeah, I see, because yeah, as you say, I come from the conservation sector,
Mm,
and I'll confess to you, conservation made no sense to me even after getting an advanced degree and working in it for so many years until I started reading into the politics and sociology of it.
mm,
Then suddenly I understood what's going on. And going forward into the politics and the protests now, what's happening in Kenya is that the younger generation, the Gen Z, as we call them, they're waking up to they're waking up to the fact that they've been victims of a long con. And in that, if you look at the history of Kenya, we had the colonialists, then the immediate post-colonial government were selected Africans,
hmm.
selected to create an African elite.
Yeah.
So they took over, and then after they grew old, died, the second generation, as in the children of those people,
Hmm.
took over. And these children of those people were, there are those who are between sort of, I'd say between 50 to 60 years old now.
Hmm.
And they took over. And this is the generation they took over and they were trained to keep the imperialist structures going and all that. And unfortunately, time has overtaken these imperialist structures and they're decaying.
Yeah.
So this is the generation that has ended up selling our country out to capitalists as they try and maintain a system that had been bypassed by time.
Mm.
And they've hung on to positions. So you find senior government positions are occupied by people in their 70s and 80s and 60s.
Yeah.
While if you compare to the immediate post-independence government, there were people in their 30s in the cabinet.
Yeah.
The people in their 20s in senior civil service and that kind of thing. And we've kept telling these kids that you are the leaders of tomorrow. There's an expression in Swahili that viongozi wa kesho, so leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they've realized now that they've been hard and they're just not buying it anymore.
Mm.
This thing that your elders are doing something wrong, but you respect your elders.
Yeah.
Don't question them. They're realizing this BS and they're not buying it. And our politicians are at sixes and sevens now, wondering how to reach out to these people. And that's why they sort of latched onto, let's jump onto the Ishowspeed bandwagon. And as much as the youth enjoyed that guy's visit and enjoyed interacting with him thoroughly, it didn't make political mileage. And the protests that happened 2024, 2025 have showed us that there's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Youth who are ignored, they're being brutalized, they're being shot and killed in the streets, they don't have jobs. They've got energy and they're brilliant, mentally brilliant, creative people. And our government has failed to absorb them because they don't fit into the imperialist boxes. So what's going on now? There's going to be change. Mm-hmm. It's partly due to this huge youth bulge, that they're around 70% of our population. And the fact that the generation in charge now is they're dying and becoming decrepit. It's sort of natural attrition. They don't have new ideas to offer anymore, and they're just going to be shunted aside. Old structures like political parties are becoming so passé in Kenya. Literally, youth they're starting to say, we like so and so, we're going to vote for him, or we like so and so, and we resonate with his message. So that's encouraging.
Okay. Do you sort of see that same youthful energy and political will to enact change pouring over into the field of conservation? Or when you look around, are you still sort of seeing the same people that you were seeing when you started doing conservation more than 2 decades ago?
Conservation is very resistant to change. I'd say in Africa, and Kenya is a snapshot of that, because conservation right now is being practiced if you put it very coarsely, Africa has this wonderful wildlife biodiversity. The structured conservation works on a theory that this biodiversity is precious, which it is, yes. It is endangered, a lot of it is, yes. The source of danger is Black people. The one to save, the saviors are white people. That's broadly put, that's what it is. Obviously now, X years later, a lot of the white people are actually as Black as you and me. But the whiteness is the philosophical framework they're pursuing. So the greatest challenge we have in conservation in Kenya, and I know a lot of parts of Africa, is that we've been unable to separate wildlife conservation from tourism. We need to conserve wildlife for its intrinsic value to us as part of our heritage.
Yes.
The fact that some tourists are happy to pay to come and see it should be a byproduct or a separate thing. And this is something this is a philosophical hurdle that we've been sort of unable to get past in Africa, and certainly in Kenya. We have a Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, which is ridiculous in terms of the themes. Tourism should be a byproduct of wildlife conservation and not the reason for wildlife conservation. So as we go now, and this external influence has spread also into sort of, the climate change issues, environmental conservation, the carbon trading, all these financial instruments for conservation. And that is what is really hurting us. Sadly, to change it in some areas will require, it's difficult to see how it can change peacefully. People are
Mm-hmm.
going to rebel. People are losing land. In areas like northern Kenya, there's a lot of proliferation of small arms. People are
Okay.
losing their land and they may fight back. There's already been some violent resource conflict in the last few years.
Mm.
And we need to get away from the white model. And because if all conservation policies right now, national parks, ideas around conservation, you ask where this are, it you should lead you back to some white man.
Yeah. It's funny. I was
Most of
actually
whom were just, yeah, colonial
in
officers with no knowledge of
yeah.
ecology.
When I was doing just a bit of research to prepare myself and prepare some questions for this, I actually found that the model of conservation that we use today with fortress conservation, the usage of game rangers and park rangers
Yeah,
goes as far back as 1,000 years in places like England, where King Canute
yeah,
created all of these forestry laws. And then there were these big five creatures that could only be hunted by royalty, very similar to the big five creatures
yes,
that we have in Africa
yes,
now. And we're sitting in this situation now where everybody's been making a big hubbub about us being free and us being having political self-determination, but
yeah,
when it comes down to the very important things like cultural preservation, like preservation of our landscapes, we're still using these models that were created by the colonists for the specific benefit of the aristocratic class, not even everybody, the
yes,
aristocratic class and
yes,
the royal class within the colonist sort of group.
yes.
That's very interesting.
It's very unfortunate, and it's sad that people don't see that, because yeah, this is the, like what came to Kenya, depending on the people colonized, what came to Kenya was like the Victorian gamekeeper model,
Mm.
where you had these lands that were belonged to the nobles, and the wildlife belonged to the nobles, and the gamekeepers were a group of violent people who are violent commoners who are put in place to keep their fellow commoners from maybe killing a rabbit to eat, so that the king could kill these things for fun.
Mm.
So again, now it's again, there are countries, many countries in Africa where sport hunting is allowed. So that in those countries, people will pay good money to kill these animals for fun. And you see all these things about figures about precipitous loss of population of elephants or whatever. And I keep asking, what proportion of those elephants are the ones shot by sport hunters?
Mm-hmm.
And what proportion are the ones killed by the so-called poachers?
Mm.
And if we look at worldwide trends, the United Kingdom is the world's biggest trader in ivory today.
Yeah.
The United Kingdom. It's Kenya banned it in 1970s. Other countries banned it a long time ago, but the United Kingdom still pontificates to us today about conservation. Yet they're
Mm-hmm.
the biggest traders in ivory, and they don't have elephants.
Mm.
That shows how conservation is still this branch of imperialism. The United Kingdom can't tell us anything about schools or our agriculture or our
No.
business, but when it comes to conservation,
They're
Prince
the
William can
ones.
still tell us, I want you to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's amazing. I actually wanted to ask you because you make all of this content that's incredibly educational. I've learned a lot about conservation and
Thank
its
you.
history in Africa from watching your content. And obviously you've been in this field for a while, so you know a lot of people, and I imagine you're relatively well connected within this industry.
Mm.
Do you get a lot of blowback and a lot of pushback from some institutions and from individuals
Mm.
that you've worked with in the past? What is the extent to which that blowback is something you ever even worry about or are concerned about, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, good question. Like, I only I really came out with this when John Mbaria and I published the big conservation lie a few years ago.
Mm.
Immediately after that, there was instant blowback and complete ostracization of me from the conservation field. Um, People who knew me would deny knowing me. People
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to be seen having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with me. Barry was a bit luckier because he's a journalist by profession. Come 2018, people started to see that what we were saying was the truth, and it got more accepted. Fast forward to now, people see and accept, it's widely accepted that what I say is the truth, but people are so heavily invested in the old system, because the old system, the old romantic white savior, black ranger, black poacher, tourism, romantic safari, etc., it sells so well. The Tarzan model, I call it the Tarzan model. It sells so well. So people are so invested in it that I've had people deny me opportunities in the field and in the field because of the things I say, because of the things I write. But I've managed to get a lot more traction into the human rights, resource rights, and policy field. So I don't do much ecology now. I've only felt at risk from some of the people, the beneficiaries of this system. There are places I hesitate to venture because they're armed rangers and militias who are funded by the Nature Conservancy and a lot of these other conservation organizations, and they see me as a threat to their livelihoods or the gravy train they're on. So I wouldn't venture too deep or alone into some of those areas like northern Kenya and all. But by and large, I've not felt threatened by it. And now that I got out into the policy and sociology discussions, I've sort of got enough. I feel that I have enough kindred spirits, if it were, to make me feel a lot more secure than I was. But yeah, it was pretty rough. 2017, 18, 19. Yeah. And then I could only find opportunities outside the country, which is ironical. I'd get teaching opportunities in the United States, various places, and consultancies out there. But now it's pretty settled down.
Okay. So with all of this work that you're doing, that intersects policy, conservation, racism, imperialism, has there always been this awareness within you about this stuff happening, or is there a particular moment where you experienced something or you saw something working in the field of conservation that then sort of led you down the path of where you are today?
Yeah, that's a good question. Many people ask me about that. They think that this is very old knowledge. No, this is not. This is quite new knowledge. I did my studies, finished up to my PhD, and worked a full 12 years or so post PhD before I realized something was wrong. And what made me realize it? There was a community project that I was working on as part of my job. We are building a school and a borehole for some Maasai community in a place called Kitirwa. This is in southern Kenya on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. So the site was pretty inaccessible, and they were building this school borehole water tanks behind a hill down a very rough road. And at some point, I was sitting at the lodge where I was staying, and I was asking one of the managers, I can't imagine why they're building it in that inaccessible place. It's so hard to get to, and it's adding to our work and costs. And the guy told us, no, we are building it there because we want the Maasai villagers to move there and not to be part of the scenery. So when our guest is here, he can only see the elephants and Kilimanjaro, but the Maasai village needs to be hidden behind that hill.
Wow.
It's a place called Mbaria in southern Kenya. And that's when I realized, oh my God, what are we doing? It's important, as in someone comes to Maasai land and it's that important for him not to see Maasai people.
Then why are they in Maasai land?
Or Maasai livestock, yeah. It's nuts if you think about it, and it's only restricted to Africa, because you don't see tourists who go to China and say, I went to China, but I saw too many Chinese people. Or I went to India, but there are too many Indians around.
Yeah.
That's the homeland. And I realized that we're oppressing our people on the altar of pleasing the elite. Literally, we're using that medieval model 1,000 years ago that you are talking about. we are applying it in the 21st century.
Wow.
And that's when I realized there's something wrong and started asking questions.
Okay. And like with your becoming aware of this, and since you started doing all of this work in the field of conservation, do you find that the level of awareness about all of these atrocities that are being committed within Kenya is high within the public? Is it something the public even cares about, or is it something people are going to become awake to in about 25 years when all their land is gone and they can't do anything about it?
There's a different levels of awareness. Okay, in the areas where people actually losing their land on this to these conservancies, carbon trading, there's awareness, especially amongst the new generation who have not yet built homes and or started their farms or herds of cattle or whatever. They start wondering, where am I going to go build my home or herd my cattle? So they're immediately aware, and they're sort of up with the questions right now. It was a bit slower amongst the urban population who don't live in those areas, but there's been great awareness has grown now, especially when you see there have been incidents like where KWS has been involved in extrajudicial killings or disappearances of people, and that made the press and people realize that there's a problem somewhere here. So change is coming. It's not 25 years. There are hard questions coming, and certainly the next 10 years, I'd say, would be very crucial. What the model like what KWS is doing today is not socially sustainable over like the next decade.
Okay.
Because we have to, at some point, our people's interests have to come to the forefront, not the interests of tourists.
Yeah. Okay. And so like with the experience that you have as an activist, what in your estimation do you think needs to be done on a grassroots level to start, inspiring some sort of change, either on a governmental level, either on a local level? Like what ought to be done by people? Should people go and buy land? Should they enter partnerships in communities? Like, should they create their own organizations that then go and start engaging in conservation? Like, what can people do?
I think, people have to take ownership of their resources. This includes land, river, forest, whatever, so that whatever conservation of the environment, make no mistake, is vitally important, and of wildlife. But once people take ownership, then the conservation is done in their interests, as in you keep the river clean because you're drinking water from there. You keep the forest intact because you need it for beekeeping, medicinal plants, wood fuel, whatever those things are. But all this starts from ownership. So all along, the conservation mantra has shown us that these things are important because tourists come to see them and give us money. But it is not tied to local livelihoods. And local livelihoods is farming, livestock keeping, whether it's beekeeping or whatever. Those are the local livelihoods. So we must put those at the forefront. Everything else must follow behind that, because that's what's sustainable. Tourism, it expands people's horizons and all that. But tourism is it's a lifestyle. It's a dependency. It's not a livelihood. You don't need to travel. It's a luxury. And when something happens like COVID pandemic, you could have your perfect tourism facility, but it's a lockdown and there's nothing you can do. But people will still keep eating meat if you're keeping livestock and all that. So let's start from our livelihoods, our interests, and that's the re-education. Like for Maasai people to reclaim their ownership of Maasai land, Taita people to claim the ownership of Taita land, and that kind of thing. Then we grow it up from there. The tourism sector must be dependent on what we have decided to do. If we decide to be farmers, there's tourists who want to come and see farms. Let them come. If we've decided to be livestock producers, which is very compatible with wildlife, tourists will come and let them go around with the cows and mingle with the elephants and all that. It's beautiful to see, actually. And we must develop products that depend on what we are, not creating something for outsiders. So there's a whole re-education that has to happen. we must do away with our advertising mantra in Kenya, which is they call it magical Kenya. It's an extremely childish thing that really annoys me. Kenya is beautiful, diverse, and all that. That magic is there's nothing about magic here. It's what we are as a people. And I think once we do that, we re-educate the people that this belongs to us, and we stop killing or displacing people for conservation purposes. And it's good. The young generation have stopped accepting this as normal, because it's not normal in any sense of the word.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. I wanted to ask you, obviously over the last couple of months there's been some waves that have been made on social media about the whole situation with Masai Mara. Like, I don't really know much about the Masai Mara, so if you could give us a bit of a breakdown, a bit of a TLDR about what exactly is going on, and where the outrage is coming from.
Yeah, the outrage is coming from the development of a luxury tourist facility, Ritz-Carlton, developing a tourist facility on a riverbank, which is in a wildebeest migration route, the migration Masai Mara. Masai Mara is an overdeveloped, overexploited tourism facility. Its success is from it's so romanticized that has been for many years. And the thing is, the same authorities that restrict access for people wanting to graze animals in that area are the same authorities that give permits to build a luxury hotel. And we create stories denying the fact that this is obstructing the migration. Yet the way tourist facilities work in Kenya, they build it where the migration is because they want guys to see the animals from the bar.
Yeah.
Right. So they actually target migration points or animal drinking points. So that's a snapshot of the problem, that Masai Mara, like our wider conservation sector, is geared towards serving the interests of the elite. Because the clients of that hotel are the elite, the owners are elite, the people who work there are all elite. So it is something by the elite for the elite. Yet taking advantage or actually compromising an ecosystem that should be supporting the livelihoods of many, many locals. So that's very much the problem. And it's driven by propaganda. There's so much propaganda in the West that people don't realize. Even in animated movies like The Lion King, you have these African animals in an African landscape, but they're speaking in American voices, the American accents, and there's no black person anywhere in sight. That's some powerful propaganda right there. Black people actually end up seeing that movie and they don't see themselves there. They see themselves as interlopers. And this is the propaganda cycle that we have to break in media, in tourism industry, the hotel industry, and in government structures. The Masai Mara is a snapshot of everything that's really wrong with safari tourism.
I think your mentioning of the strong sort of propaganda campaign that surrounds the romanticization of Africa and the dehumanization of the indigenous people kind of ties in nicely to something I wanted you to comment on. So I'm somebody who likes to consume nature content, and I'm somebody who likes to consume all of this sort of stuff on social media. And whenever you have nature content that is made by all of these trophy hunters, there's this propagandistic slogan that says conservation is made possible by hunting dollars. And I wanted you to sort of comment on that, because that is absolutely not true. I've looked at some statistics specifically around Zambia, where I'm from. The amount of money that is contributed by trophy hunting to the collective annual profit from tourism is very minuscule. It's almost completely
It's just a license. The trophy hunting money goes to safari outfitters. The guys who run the trip and all that. So that's a complete fallacy. And the other thing we need to understand is that trophy hunting is a neurosis. It's a mental problem. And I've been up close with the trophy hunt, and I see when they're posing for those pictures, someone actually comes with a bucket and a brush and they wash blood off the animal they've killed. They wash the blood off. So they want to take the photo, but no, don't want to see blood. Wash off the blood and tell the black guy to hide behind the thing so he's not seen or get out of the frame. And take the photo with your gun and the clean animal and you with your gun and the background of bush. So it's a neurosis. And it's unfortunate that people work so hard, including scientists like myself, to justify it, saying we need to remove old animals, let them die naturally. Like the dollars don't go to conservation, they go to the safari outfitter's bank account. Only the license fee, the which is what is $5,000-$10,000 on the scale of a nation. Only the license fee goes to that, and then we create white spaces, because if there are white people hunting in this area, Mordecai can't live here for his own safety. He'll get hit by a stray bullet.
Yeah.
So it's a very useful tool for removing people. Sport hunting, rhino conservation, rhino range expansion, are very effective tools for land grabbing in Africa.
Yeah, this reminds
me
of
they're so vigorously defended.
This reminds me of the first time I ever encountered you. I was watching a documentary about green colonialism. It's a documentary that dives into, the aristocratic roots of institutions like WWF and African parks, and it caught my ear when you said the most effective land grabbing tool in Africa is a rhino.
Oh, yes, very powerful.
Yeah. You tell a government you're gonna bring in rhinos, they'll give you all the land, give you gun licenses, and enable you to just kill whoever you want to kill in order to
you can kill whoever you want to kill because of the rhinos.
Yeah.
and it's sad that they're turning wild animals from a blessing into a curse. I mean, I feel sorry for any Kenyan or any African who has rhinos near their home.
Yeah.
Because they'll never know peace.
Yeah.
That's the truth of where we are today. And we must turn around so that wildlife once again becomes the blessing and the beautiful thing that it's always been to us in past generations, and stops being this curse that puts us at the mercy of white men and their armed and militarized black servants.
So
because that's what's happening now.
I wanted to ask you, in the scope of work that you've done, I imagine you've clashed heads with organizations and individuals of varying levels of power and varying levels of influence. What have you found is a very effective way of engaging with these people to get them to come to the table and change some of their policies, or do away completely with these policies where you have been successful?
I think I have been successful in especially when I started sharing a lot of these thoughts and content on social media. Social media is extremely effective because it makes they might not call me to the table, but they'll go to the table wherever they're meeting, and someone will say, "Did you see that thing Mordecai said?
Yeah.
Is there truth to it?" And so it's important that we share and engage this, especially in a way that's not scientific. In conservation, we scientists, we hide a lot of BS behind technical terms. And so the common person thinks, okay, I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
And so when you break things down, that's a very effective tool. Use mass access, like social media. Smartphones are all over the place, huge internet penetration in rural areas. Language, wherever I can, we need to start putting out things in Kiswahili or whichever languages are spoken. Even though English is quite widespread, widely spoken in Kenya. The thing I'm embarking on now is collaboration across the global south. So I'm working with a group in India. There's surprising similarity between the extrajudicial killings, harassment because of rhinos, etc., in India as we have here in Africa. Wow. So I've contacted some groups there, and I'm hoping to go and visit, and we want to put a sort of latitudinal collaboration between African countries and Asian countries, because we have elephants here and there, rhinos here and there, leopards here and there, lions here and there. But all our conservation collaborations are now with Europe. What do we have in common with them as far as nature? We are
Dr.
collaborating
Ogada,
with the United States, yeah.
Right. So in your in your travels and in your experience with conservation over the last 25 years, have you encountered any indigenous groups of people and any indigenous-led conservation initiatives that you think work really well and that you think would translate really well to the sort of model of community that we have in Africa as indigenous people?
In Africa, I'd say no,
Okay.
because all of them are modeled on the sort of structured conservation. And one thing, and this is not for lack of trying, but it's failure to depart philosophically from the white model of conservation. In African societies and in African languages, we don't even have a word for conservation.
Yeah.
Because conservation is a concept that grew out of destructive societies. Now, what we need to do is concentrate on what we are doing. So if let's say we are working with a pastoralist group, we should develop it out of a need to manage our pasture lands and our water sources well for the sake of our livestock. Keep our livestock movement routes open so that we can move our livestock around. In the event that we do that, the animals will also enjoy the pasture. The animals will drink from the same water sources. The animals will migrate along the same routes that are used by livestock. So we need to base it on that. If it's a community of fishermen, for example, let's look at the nets we are using, size of nets we are using, keeping the water clean and that kind of thing. So that will be good for the fishermen's livelihood and for the aquatic ecosystem. So that's where we need to start. We have some rights groups that are sort of looking at ensuring, securing the land rights, because production is all based on land. And there are a few that are working very well. I know of a group called Impact here in Kenya that has done a lot over the years, letting people know what their rights are. But one thing I think a good place to start should be our governments need to protect us from the Nature Conservancy, Conservation International, WWF, because these are now become tools of capitalists in the West to acquire resources in Africa. And sadly, at least talking about Kenya, these people are so deep in bed and close to our government structures that they almost operate within the state systems. They're almost no longer NGOs, because NGOs now have armed security. NGOs have access to ministry offices. Some have offices in state organizations. And that's where the problem lies, because this is colonialism coming once again, not coming through nations, but coming through the new colonists are capitalists. The people buy carbon credits, the billionaires who fund these organizations, and they get access to our resources and lands in return.
Okay. Dr. Ogada, thank you so much for the time that you gave to me to
it's my
ask
pleasure.
you all of these questions. I'm sure anybody who watches this will have learned quite a bit, and we appreciate you sharing your knowledge. Just as a last thing, if there's anything that you would like to promote and anything that you would like people to check out that you're working on right now, you can let us know and we'll link it in the description and direct people towards there.
Probably my latest book, which is Green and Evil, talks about a lot of the things we've discussed here. It was released in November last year. Available on Amazon. So if you can get hold of that, it will tell you a lot more about what I've said. And for those in South Africa, I'll be coming to Cape Town again in March.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be giving a lecture at UCT. So I'll keep you informed about that. So
yeah, please do. It's like 10 minutes away from where I live.
All right, great. So I'll be there in March, and I'll be giving a talk around these things, and also for people to remember that environment is not something out there to be done by scientists or being taken care of by rangers. It's about all of us. It's about our identity, and don't let anyone ever tell you that you're separate from the environment or nature. We as human beings, we didn't drop from the moon. We've always been here, and we are part of this, and this is part of us.
Mm.
And let's take ownership of it.
All right. Dr. Ogada, thank you once again. Thank you to everybody who has taken the time to watch this. Please go and check out Green and Evil. You can get it on Amazon, like Dr. Ogada just said. And yeah, thank you so much, Doctor. I hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you so much, Stanley. It's been a pleasure.